Welcome back to another exciting episode of Home Sweet Home. My name is Rod McCall.
Hey, I am Bryce Runge.
You know, Bryce, it's good to see you today.
It's good to see you again.
Yeah, it'd be nice when spring is actually here full time.
Oh my gosh, this weather is wild, man.
It's back and forth. One day freezing, the next day, shorts and flip flops, and then it's back to freezing, and then snow, and it's kind of like, stop being crazy like me and just, be cold or be warm, but don't fluctuate day to day. But
hey, is your grass confused? Like, does it know to grow or like not stay dormant or like?
Oh, you mean like grass on the yard?
What'd you think I was talking about?
Well, I wasn't sure. Yeah, it doesn't seem to know what to do either.
Yeah. Hey, so speaking of,
okay,
so I had scalped the yard.
Oh yeah,
and then I got a yard of this soil mix to fill in some of the low spots and the ankle breakers in the grass.
Sure.
And I did specifically on because we live in a cul-de-sac, and so on the street right there, that grass that butts up in the street, because people will drive on it, all these workers and whatnot.
Sure.
And I get home yesterday after picking up the girls, and I just leveled all that stuff. And wouldn't you know, some jackwagon drove over my grass.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I wanted to pick a bone with you. When I saw you this morning sitting in your truck, I'm like, that beep, beep, beep. No, I didn't say that. I was laughing. I'm like, that was you ding dong. When you were backing up yesterday.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. What I need to do, no, it's fine. I need to not fill it in until they're done building all the houses. Because workers will just, and they're big semis, and they'll turn and like, we don't really care.
In my defense, I was trying to get as close to the curb as possible. So I sincerely apologize. I was going to tell you yesterday, but I was a little embarrassed.
It's okay. I forgive you.
Well, thank you.
Now get a shovel and go fix it.
All right. I'll shovel a rake. When you were growing up, did you imagine living in the house that you do? Living in the neighborhood that you do? Living the life that you do?
No.
Do you remember what you thought you would be? Rephrase that. Do you remember? I remember in elementary school, they would go, well, what do you think you'd like to be when you grow up? You get to high school, they do the same thing. What do you where it's not just a fantasy, but take your classes, start prepping. Mm-hmm. Do you want to go to college? If so, what do you want to study? So let's find a school that, fits your interest as far as, if you're not going to college, what kind of vo-tech or trade school do you want to go to? Or what kind of trade do you want to develop your skill with? Mm-hmm. Do you remember any of that?
Yeah, I do. I knew I wanted to be a professional, but they didn't offer classes for that type of professional. So, I wanted to be a professional skater. Oh, yeah. I wanted to be a professional surfer. Well, I take that, but professional surfer. That was really because I fell deeply in love with the ocean when I was young. And so they did offer classes. I take that back. In the high school, they used to have a surf, I don't think it was a class. It was a club. Okay. And my oldest brother, not my oldest, second oldest, Brett, he's big time surfer. Yeah. Still surfs to this day at almost 50. I remember they had a competition in Huntington Beach, and one of the kids in high school didn't show up. Okay. And I was with my brother, because I was always with him surfing, and they needed someone. I was 12 at the time. Okay. And so they put me in the contest, and I remember beating two high school kids in the surfing competition.
Really?
at that age. And then, I don't know if it counted or not, but I remember beating them. And that kind of, I'm like, oh, wow, I'm really good at this, right? And so, when I was younger and, growing up in the extreme sports, I knew I wanted to be a professional surfer, skateboarder. I did eventually become a professional rollerblader, but
Right.
you can't do that forever. I'm paying the price my body is nowadays. And then it turned into, I want to be a professional athlete. So that turned into this dream of playing in the NFL. And we know how that turned out. So, but yeah, I had those dreams, if you will, of becoming a professional athlete. So, but does that answer your question?
It does. Because I was thinking, I ran across a couple of quotes that popped up on my Twitter feed here, I don't know, a week or two ago. And it got me thinking, and I remember being in elementary school, they're asking us to write, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? And there was a TV show back in the late 70s, early 80s called BJ and the Bear.
Okay.
And it was about a truck driver. He was had a monkey and always got in trouble with the law, trying to do good. But anyway, I always thought, well, that's what I want to be. I want to be a truck driver.
Yeah.
And, well, I guess at one point, I did become a truck driver. But that was purely by accident, not by intention. But, I think about my life. Mm-hmm. And I think about, okay, I did not, when I was a little kid, when I was even, going through high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do growing up. And if somebody had told me in high school that I would become a high school teacher,
right,
I would have laughed them silly. Because no way, huh? I did not like school. I was okay at school, but it was not, I didn't live to go to school.
Yeah.
And I knew we grew up lower middle income.
Okay.
Not poor. I mean, poor, but not in that poor category, economic standards, that they measure those by. I was tired. I didn't want to be poor. I wanted, I guess anybody that grows up with very little money wants to have a lot of money.
Right.
I had no idea how I was going to get it. I had no idea where I wanted to live. There were a lot of things that I had no idea about. We've talked before about life by default versus life by design.
Mm-hmm.
Something I don't know if you made it up or if you coined it or if you borrowed it from somebody, but I've really come to embrace that.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, got married. Well, this is what marriage is supposed to be like. Yeah. I had in my mind, these are the things that you do. And my life has turned out a lot different than what I imagined it would be.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
Well, so that's why these quote, the one in particular really caught my eye. And this is it was just, again, on the Twitter feed, but it says, just because the past didn't turn out the way you wanted it to, it doesn't mean your future can't be better than you imagined.
Yeah.
And I think about, you and I have talked about multiple times, it's in your book, it's in my book, in regards to how our life has provided us many opportunities to change.
Yeah.
And I think, and we I've been, the idea of if you could go and, I think we've talked about this before, if you, could go back to your younger self, what would you say? Mm-hmm. And I've thought about that.
A lot of things.
Well, thank you, me too. But I wonder if I were to have changed my past, how would that change my present? And would I like that?
Yeah.
Because the struggles that I have gone through, that you have gone through, shaped us into who we are. And I kind of like who I am today.
Yeah.
And that's why the second quote that I found extremely interesting, it says, "Don't worry about hard times. Some of the most beautiful things in life come from changes or mistakes."
Yeah.
And, life, we have our design, we have what we want, but things happen. Our fault, somebody else's fault, nobody's fault, just things happen.
Right.
And it's okay, I think, maybe to be angry or frustrated, feel a little bit depressed about, okay, this is what I wanted, but maybe you aren't supposed to have what you think you wanted.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I'm going to go back to, and I'm listening to you. I want to go back to the question about, like, here I am. I said I was listening to you. I'm having a hard time remembering what you said.
You were listening to respond, not listening to understand.
Yeah, if you could go back and change anything, what would it be? And I don't think about it all the time because I don't really want to dive too deep into that. For a couple reasons, because like you, I'm really good where I'm at. Okay, and I'm still growing and I'm still working because I don't want to settle for good. So that what keeps pushing me. So it is interesting sometimes to, man, what if I made the NFL? Or back up, like, what if I did become a professional surfer? Or, there's a lot of things that, because the journey I've been on, it's a roller coaster ride. It's all over the place, from the ocean to the mountains, from the football field to the classroom. It's all over the place. So I try not to get too lost in that.
Yeah.
Because I think you can find yourself, becoming down about certain things. So that's like not necessarily that I would, but it's sometimes that you could get lost in that. And anyways, sometimes it is interesting to look into, what if that would have happened, But again, I'm so grateful for where I'm at right now, because now looking back, I could say, well, everything has happened for a reason, a higher purpose. Now I get to turn around and share my story. Same thing you and I are doing right now. We're using this platform to share our story, to help equip others to live a thriving life. And so I'm so good with that. I'm so good, even though there were seasons where it hurt so bad.
Yeah.
I could look and say, like, well, I get to use this message, this story, to help others. And that, to me, that's what it's about, helping enrich the lives of others. So that was that first, talking about looking at situations, that you could have, what if it would have been different? The other thing too is I laughed about, what would you tell your younger self? It's the same thing I tell the kids or people I talk with. Fight for what you want now, or you're going to fight against everything that you don't want later in life.
Okay.
And I could say that because that's what I did. I spent a lot of time fighting against all the stuff that I really didn't want in my life. The bad consequences from my poor decision-making skills. So I tell people, like, hey, fight now. Put all the effort in to designing something that you want. Don't just go with this cruising through life mentality, because I know what that's like.
Okay.
So fight for all that stuff that you want now. Be disciplined in growing where you're at now. Otherwise, later on in life, you're going to fight against all that stuff. Why does this keep happening to me? Why is this, why am I receiving more of this? Because you didn't put in the effort and fight for the things that you really wanted to attain in life. So that's what I teach the kids. Like, don't come in with an apathetic attitude. Come in with effort. Start living by design. Put effort in. Fight for academic success.
Mm-hmm.
Fight to fulfill your dreams. But fight for it.
Mm-hmm. No, I think I like that. I share a similar message with my students that, of course, teaching government, well, the power of the vote. You can complain about government, and a lot of people do, and that's fine. We have a constitutional right to do so. But what are you doing to change?
Yeah.
And we can, I think a lot of times it's easy to live in the past.
Oh, yeah.
And use the past to complain about the present and potentially even hinder our future. And I love working with young people because they're filled with a lot of hope and a lot of optimism. And I always encourage them to embrace that they, the world is what their parents and their grandparents made, in particular their grandparents made. And because it takes decades for a decision that is made to finally be fleshed out. George W. Bush passed the No Child Left Behind law in the early 2000s, and here we are, not quite 20 years afterwards, and we're going, okay, now we see the consequences, maybe we should change a few things. It takes a long time. So I remind them that just because this is the way the world is, doesn't mean it has to be the way of the future. They get a lot of time to shape the world as they would like it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so it got me thinking, have you ever wanted something so bad that you could not imagine it not happening or not coming true?
Yeah. Gosh. Yeah.
I mean, when you were playing, when you were skating, did you ever think you would not be a professional skater for the rest of your life?
I think just being young and dumb, that was like, this is what I'm going to do forever.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Uh-huh. No, I'm with you. I mean, I don't know that growing up I don't know that I ever had a lot of that kind of drive or passion for anything.
Yeah.
I was just living by default. And a large part of my life, especially those formative years, I went to college because I was told I'm going to college. But I had no idea what that really meant. I went to junior college, which was basically just an extension of high school.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was, when I finally decided, okay, I want to be a teacher, okay, that's what I did. I took the courses, but I didn't really put maybe my best effort into doing everything possible. Because, well, yeah, but I got to pay for my housing. I got to pay for my car. I got to pay for my car insurance. I got to pay for my groceries. I got to pay for my bills. And so I was working all the time. Part-time job here, 2 part-time jobs there, 3 part-time jobs. I mean, at one point I had 4 part-time jobs and going to school for 18 hours. And it was more survival mode. Mm-hmm. I get my college degree, and yet when I graduated from college in the early 90s, Kansas was generating 90% more teachers from teaching schools than there were jobs available.
Wow.
So I had to find other stuff. So, let's try this. Let's try that. And it was there was no design. I was wherever the wind carried me.
Yeah.
And I wasn't real happy with life, but I didn't know that I could do something to make it different. And so when you have talked about, you had this passion, I kind of feel a little jealous that I didn't have that. Because there was no set design.
Right.
And so I would be envious of other people. And it was kind of like, what are you doing? I don't know.
Yeah.
And so when but I don't know how to say that. I mean, when I got my degree, I couldn't imagine not being a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of was a very brutal, eye-opening experience going to interviews and discovering, I am woefully underprepared. I am ready to be a social studies teacher,
Yeah.
but I had no idea what that really meant.
Got it.
And so I guess that would be a big potential failure. Nah, I wouldn't call it a failure,
No.
but it was a big disappointment because then I began to question, okay, well, maybe I don't want to be a teacher.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of interesting, looking back with, again, the benefit of hindsight, going, oh, maybe I had to truly want. Because after leaving Kansas to go to Pennsylvania and living up there for 5 years, doing, hard physical labor type work that, oh yeah, my back really is kind of screwed up from some of the jobs. But when I came down here to Texas 20 years ago, it was kind of like, okay, I am going to do everything I can to become a school teacher.
Yeah.
Because I truly did want it. And I worked, talk about life by design. I took the bull by the horns, and lo and behold, I got a teaching job.
Well, there you go.
So, I don't know. I think it's kind of interesting the things that we think we want.
Right.
But do we want it so bad that we're actually doing everything possible?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you had said, you had made a comment that you were, somewhat jealous of my passion and those things that I was aspiring to do. Like, it didn't go any further. Like, there was never a, what are you going to do when this is done? Going back to, I'm just going to do this forever. There was no, again, it all comes back to design. Those were very and you look at the timeline, a life map, if you will. That season was very short.
Mm-hmm.
And then you don't have a design. You don't, okay, what am I going to do when this comes to an end? Not if, when this comes to an end. There was never anything. And that happened several times. And there was like, when are you going to wake up? Oh, you see what I did there?
Oh, wake up,
man. When are you going to wake up and realize, this, obviously it took me a long time, but again, you come to the end of that and there's, where am I going? What am I doing? Who am I?
Mm-hmm.
Was the question, the multi-million-dollar question. But, you had mentioned, it seems that the negative experiences sometimes, outweigh the positive ones. That we're cut deeper.
Okay.
Right. So that wound hurts more. And, I think when we look back, I think it's okay to look back, to reflect.
Mm-hmm.
If you could use the past, if you could look back to use the past as building blocks for a better future, then awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But where I have been, in fact, I don't know what chapter it was about. You don't live there anymore.
Yes.
It's people have a hard time removing themselves from the past because they still want to live there. And so it didn't happen, or I'm really hurt by this. And so people will hang on to that hurt and they'll hang on to that bitterness. And what they don't understand, that leads to a contaminated soul. And that also prevents you from really tapping into the full potential that you have.
Okay.
So I think that's where we talked about this. A lot of people get stuck in park.
Sure.
Because of that pain. And I get it. I've been there. You've been there.
Oh, yes.
But if you could use those moments of pain to help discover a greater purpose and that push you through, then that's a moment of growth and opportunity. And but again, I would be lying if I sat here and I haven't lived in the past. I've hung out, just gripping the pain.
Mm-hmm.
But until I learn to no, let's use this opportunity to grow.
Mm-hmm.
Dig deep, find a way, grow, use it as an opportunity to get better.
Yeah.
Learn. But that's the key. You got to learn from it.
It's I'm totally completely agree going through marriage 1.0, I had in my mind this is what marriage will be like. And yeah, you got your ups and downs because my parents modeled what I thought was okay, this is what marriage is supposed to be like. And so when it began to turn sideways, I'm going, how do I deal with this? And it became progressively more complicated as I tried to measure my fantasy of what it's supposed to be like with what it really was like. And when you talk about being in Park, as the divorce began, I was very much in Park. I was very upset with what was happening because this isn't supposed to happen.
Right.
And, when you talk about living in the past, I sometimes wonder how much when, you get to be our age and you...
Excuse me, sorry.
No worries. You begin to look back and you're going, wait a minute, this isn't where I thought my life would be. Mm-hmm. In my mind, when I was 15, 17, 20, I thought this is where my life was going to go. This is what it was going to be like. This is what I was going to be doing. And my life is nothing like that. Mm-hmm. And so you begin to maybe dwell too much on that.
Yeah.
And if you start going, being, in the divorce group, I cannot begin to tell you how many times folks would come in and they'd say, well, my ex met up with, somebody they knew in middle school or somebody they knew in high school that was 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah. And,
well, they started talking and they started living the glory days. I put glory in air quotes. And next thing you know, well, now they're hooking up and the divorce begins because their ex is going backwards to, that high school flame, that middle school boyfriend, girlfriend. And it's kind of like, why do you think by going backwards, it will make things for the future be better? I don't know. Again, it goes back to that quote of, just because your present doesn't match what you thought it would be like doesn't mean that it's bad.
Yeah. Man, I didn't see this one happening to me. No, I think when people continue to live in the past, here's what happens. They get emotionally stuck.
Sure.
And we've talked about this, especially in divorce situations or relationship issues. They never say never, it's important to make time to heal, to reflect before you move on. Because if you don't, which we see multiple case after case, relationship after relationship, they will still be bitter. They will still have all that just unresolved issues and bitterness on the inside. And they never take time to, like I said, reflect and heal. They're moving right in to the next situation.
Where they're going to repeat.
Where that's going to be a repeat.
Rinse and repeat. And then you go, well, why do these things keep happening to me? Well, you're absolutely right. These things keep happening to you because maybe you keep putting yourself in the same situation.
Well, it's you. Again, you're repeating. You're not taking time to learn from the past. So, again, you're going to find yourself in the same situation. Well, then you're impacting everyone else around you.
And, as you say that, when you're in a bad mood, your bad mood is very infectious. Mm-hmm. When you're in a good mood, your good mood is very infectious.
Right.
And it's my ex-brother-in-law, he talked about a guy he worked with, and he called him the dark cloud.
Oh, God.
Because they were always so negative. Mm-hmm. And, we did an episode recently about, kids and how we as adults can influence the young people around us, whether as school teachers or as parents or as coaches of little leagues, whatever it might be, by our mood, our attitude. And if we're trying to live in the past, I know of a variety of students that I've had come through that are athletes. I've talked to multitudes of coaches who have commented that moms and dads try and live vicariously through their kids, or they try and relive, mom and dad are trying to relive their high school days, their athletic, dreams that they never got to see fulfilled by pushing their kids to be what they could not.
Right.
And so, it fits in, I think, with this very concept of if we live backwards looking, what are we missing by not looking forward? And are we forgetting what our present or our future could be?
Yeah. Forget what lies behind.
Well, use it as you said, a building block to, okay, what did I do? How did this go sideways? Why didn't what I think would happen? And yes, I like the idea of reflection. You and I've talked about this on multiple occasions about the impact of being able to understand, okay, what happened? Why did it happen? What was my role? And understand in that not turning out the way I wanted it to.
Yeah.
Whether it's marriage or job or career, extreme sports, whatever it could be. Because when you get stuck, that living in park, well, it makes it tough for both you and everybody around you. And when I think we can move past that to dig ourselves out of the quicksand of the past, because I think looking backwards can truly suck you in. Like quicksand, or, where it can, not only suck you in, but it can suck you down, suffocate you.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, negativity breeds negativity. What happens when you get an infection, Rod? What do?
I go to the doctor,
and they do what? It's not a joke. It's not a trick question either. It's like
no, they give you antibiotics.
Okay, so
that way you can cure it.
Right. So infection, right? We talked about that. Like you get an infection and it requires treatment, but if it goes untreated, what happens?
It can kill you.
It gets worse.
It really does.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's why, again, we keep maybe circling the same thing, but I liked those quotes because life is going to throw you obstacles. Ian Malcolm in Jurassic Park, he mentioned, I like the line that life finds a way. Our life, our destiny is, well, I think we all have things that we are supposed to do, places we are supposed to be, and we maybe we know exactly what we want to do.
Yeah.
And that is truly our destiny. And some folks, I worked for Walmart Pharmacy, way back yonder. And the pharmacist there, he knew at age 15 that he wanted to be a pharmacist. And he took the right courses in high school, goes off to college, then goes off to pharmacy school. And by 23 years old, he is a pharmacist. I'm thinking, holy crap.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I did not realize my dream of being a school teacher until my early 30s.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, good grief. I felt kind of jealous.
Yeah.
That person knew. And they were very good at being they were really good. They were perfect fit for being a pharmacist.
Right.
And I look at, okay, I took a long time to get here, but it was kind of like in a maze. And the maze directed me to be here. And yeah, I hit a lot of dead ends, but it was each one of those that put me in the position to be exactly where I think I need to be. And it's kind of liberating.
Yeah.
To go, you know what? I did have a lot of things that happened. Challenges, mistakes. And learning how to learn from those. Life found a way to put me in the position that I am now, and I kind of like being here.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I kind of like hanging out with you sometimes.
Well, vice versa. Wait a minute, only sometimes? All right, fine. It's all because I didn't bring you a Diet Coke.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Well. Yeah, I'm with you on that one, man, for sure. I'm reminded of this. I'm going to try and shorten this story up. We were in Long Beach. This was when I was still in California. Wasn't married. I think my skating career kind of came to an end. Working odd jobs here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And we went to a club in Long Beach. The LBC. And there was a group of us, and we had a buddy named Penn, and he was a graphic designer for this clothing skate company. And we were on the rooftop, and we decided to scale down the side of the wall. We were having a good time. Okay, you could you figure that one out. And we make our way to this abandoned skyrise building.
Mm-hmm.
And we go in, and there's glass where we entered, and we're stepping on glass. And one of us, I don't know where we got the flashlight from. I don't know where it came from. I don't remember. Someone had it randomly. We didn't have cell phones like with our phone or the flashlight on the phone, so it definitely wasn't that. So we go in, and we're like, wow, all this glass, and we're like, man, someone put it there. Like, they're going to know we're in here. We're freaking ourselves out. So we make our way up, and then we hear some crazy noises, and we have no idea who's in there. It's pitch black, and we're all like a bunch of sissies holding on to each other. And next thing you know, it's like a scene from a scary movie. And the flashlight goes out.
Of course.
And this is not a made-up story. This is true. And you could ask everyone that. And I still talk to all these people, except for Penn. He moved to New York. Love that guy. And we go down, I guess, a couple extra flights too far.
Okay.
And we're in the pitch black, and we're like thinking, man, we could get killed down here. Like something bad could happen. I remember just saying, where are we going? And it kind of resonates with me. Where were you? Where are you going?
Mm-hmm.
Just like, where are you going in life?
Sure.
Like, what are you doing? And it was pitch black, and then the light kind of flickers back on.
Mm-hmm.
And so we end up making our way. I don't know. It reminded me of that story and had the impact of that comment. Where are you going?
Kind of like an epiphany.
Yeah.
Well, have you ever wondered if your skating career had actually continued, blossomed, and allowed you to be, continue. And, you're here you are in your 40s, and that's been your career.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever thought about have you followed that train of thought to its end? What your life would be like today had you been that professional skater?
No, I don't think there was ever an end. There was no picture of, at the end, this is what it's all going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
There was never that clear vision of what I really wanted to look like.
Okay.
There was never a clear vision. It was just kind of day by day. This is what I'm doing. And again, young and dumb, and we felt like we were on cloud 9. I don't even know what that means. I hear it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
we're traveling, we're in competitions, we're well known. Some would consider that famous in that industry, and yeah, I never really envisioned the end. Like, what is this going to look like?
Okay.
I don't know. Did that answer your question?
I
don't ever look back and be like, oh, what would have happened? I think as football kind of maybe overshadows that.
Okay.
I think maybe there is some reality. Maybe that's because it's set in now. The reality is like there was no way that I would be able to do what I was doing in skating. Because I look back at some pictures and I could look at the injuries that we sustained and falling, 10 feet on concrete. Like that's crazy. That hurts. Flipping upside down multiple times in the air and coming down sideways on a ramp or whatever. It's like, dang. I watch different videos like skateboard videos and surfing or extreme sport videos, and I see what they're doing now, and I see the crashes, and it just makes me cringe. Mm-hmm. Like, why are you doing that to yourself? I'm like, you're the idiot who did it too. So what are you talking about? But I don't ever. Man, what if, what if that? I don't know. Like I said, I think NFL kind of overshadows all of that. I think I could envision more of NFL.
Okay.
Like I was going to be playing on Sundays. This is what was going to happen. I have a lot more money. I get to do more things, I get to live a different lifestyle. Mm-hmm. I kind of envisioned that, but I didn't envision, hey, what happens when this doesn't work out? Or what happens, you do make it, what are you going to do when it's over? Mm-hmm. Because what's the shelf life of an NFL player? 3 years max?
Something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, to be the Tom Brady is to be...
Rare. Extremely rare.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, that's...
Well, because I sometimes wonder if my life... My vision was to be exactly what my parents were. Middle class, have a job that you worked at till you're retired. You have a family. You go to church. And that's kind of it. But it didn't happen that way.
Right.
And I have to say, I know I've said this before, and I'll continue to say it. All the things that happened, the good and the bad, have made me who I am.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I would want to be anything other than who I am at this moment. Mm-hmm. Because I kind of like where I'm at. I'm in enough comfort, but I'm not. But I'm pushing myself to be a little bit better. That's why I'm going, working on my master's degree.
Don't get too comfortable now.
No, and that's my point, is that I feel safe enough to try new things.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm glad I don't live in the past. That I don't dwell on the couldas, the wouldas, the shouldas, the maybes, the might-haves.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that each one of these things have happened in the way that they have happened. Because I think the present is really good, and I am super excited about what the future holds for where I'm going.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and I think I'm right there with you, and I know that, this season of our lives is busy, specifically for us with the two little ones, and Braddock's is becoming a teenager, and I've got to give myself a lot of grace, and I also need to give myself some downtime, and hey, slow down a little bit. I'm a firm believer that the enemy of greatness is hurry. So
Yeah.
Slow down a little bit, enjoy things, because I'm always like, we got to go. I got to get this done. But I think it's important for you to be mindful that while you're creating, if you're designing something, designing this future that you want to experience, you also need to be mindful of the fact that it's not going to go exactly as you planned. So prepare yourself for that. Mm-hmm. And when things don't go make sure you respond correctly.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about that before. How you respond to the situations that happen in life are going to dictate the next step.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my 2 cents. You
No, I agree with
can
you.
take it to the bank if you want
Okay.
and invest it.
Okay. The current interest rates, it'll take a while to, but no, I'm with you. And that's why, again,
You get a drop of gas.
maybe
Maybe.
maybe some gas fumes. But that's why I know we're up against our time limit, but I want to end with, again, repeating that second quote. Don't worry about the hard times. Some of the most beautiful things in life come from changes or mistakes.
Yeah, amen to that.
So, anyway.
This is what I talk about often. Don't automatically think disaster. Develop a mindset that deploys greatness so that you can overcome and achieve the impossible.
It's an opportunity.
It's an opportunity, brother.
Well, then I guess we'll take the opportunity here to say farewell.
Farewell. It's been real.
It's been fun.
Have a good one.
See ya.